Raminap Red and Teamer Energy.
Kind of the hallmark matchup of the format, if you can exclude the Teamer mirror, is going to be Teamer versus Raminap Red.
So talking with Kevin King, a player which you normally see in Legacy, saying, hey, how does it feel? You use Legacy to qualify for this tournament, but now it's a standard modern split. And one thing which you may not know about Kevin King, unlike most of our Lands players, you know, the Daryl Layers, the Jody Keats, who just lands every event. Kevin King actually started as a Grixis player. He plays a lot of value-oriented decks. He's one of our only Lands players who really, he's a land, you know, plays lands sometimes, but not every time, and those skills translate really well when he has to play other formats.
Oh yeah, having a wide range, very important for a tournament like this.
Kevin starting off on Bomat Courier. It is off a colorless mana, that's the Sunscorched Desert.
So he got in for 2 points. He's already got the mountain rolled up, but took advantage of the fact that he has that colorless mana. Can cast Bomat Courier off that, no problem.
And now here's a red mana. Lightning Strike will shoot down the Servant to the Conduit. Bomat Courier hits Benjamin down to 17 and puts a second card in exile.
And one thing about Teamer versus Raminap Red is sometimes the game can end much later, but the most important turns are going to be the first couple of turns. How many chip shots can the red deck get in to make it easier to close in the late game?
Yeah, and we saw that yesterday. We had a match between Todd Anderson and Jadine Klumparens, and you felt one player had, by turn 5, there would be a decisive advantage going one of the two ways.
Right. Yeah, you either end up in a position where the Teamer player is stabilized and has a healthy life total, or maybe the red deck player just runs away with the game. But if the Teamer player stabilizes with a low life total, then the red deck player is still very much in the game.
Scavenger Grounds from Kevin King makes a second Bomat Courier, and Harsh Mentor will line up next to it, but with no removal spell for the Rogue Refiner, Kevin has no attacks. He sends the turn back.
And a little bit awkward with Scavenger Grounds being the third land, only access to 1 red mana. He does have a couple cards under the first Bomat Courier, which can be converted into an advantage, though typically you're going to want at least another mountain to really be in the game. And as you see here, he does have a bit of work to do on the life total front here. Nikolich still at 17, a very healthy life total.
Yeah. Benjamin going to attune. And you mentioned that second red missing for Kevin. So in the main, he does play, he doesn't play any copies of Chandra Torch of Defiance. There isn't a double red card in the main deck for him. So it's not going to make any of the cards unable to cast, I suppose outside of a Raminap Ruins activation, but it does mean he only gets 1 spell per turn. The Bomat Couriers are the only straight colorless he can do.
And the texture of the matchup is very much focused on the fact that the Teamer deck is just playing better cards than the Raminap Red deck.
Yeah.
And if they start double spelling first, the game's mostly just over.
Well, here is Raminap Ruins from Kevin. And keep in mind that Sunscorched Desert and Scavenger Grounds both can be sacrificed to it eventually. Now, question I'd be asking is, can Kevin get more damage in? After playing the Ruins, he's going to swing out the whole team. Was looking to put cards under the Bomat Couriers, but Benjamin's holding him with the triggers on the stack.
You don't want those things to get too out of hand.
Yeah, Harnessed Lightning on the Bomat Courier with 2 cards under it. And Kevin, no interest in popping the Courier. He moves the 2 cards in exile away.
And then still 3 cards in hand, or 2 or 3. No reason to trade those for randoms.
And Nikolich then just gets to block the other Courier for free. This was an expensive attack from King, though then he plays Hazaret post-combat.
If there's no removal spell there, you know, things work out great. The way this even played out, though, we did get in that chip shot with the Harsh Mentor, especially when you transition to the Hazaret stage of the game. That chip shot matters a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting how much he values it, because Benjamin's down to 15 here. Because Kevin had the option to just cast Hazaret, no attacks, and then next turn cash in a Bomat Courier for a card, but he actually determined that 2 damage was worth more than the card.
In particular, if you like the holdings you have left over, going for those random cards that can hurt you, especially if you have Hazaret and you just draw a bunch of lands, then you have to spend some time emptying your hand.
All right, so from Nikolich, it was a Long Tusk Cub, but no 5th land. Kevin King, land, Soulscar Mage, down to 1 card in hand. Here comes Chandra. Harnessed Lightning from Nikolich on Harsh Mentor. Looks like he wants to put some counters on that Long Tusk Cub, but doesn't want to lose a bunch of life points when doing it.
Right.
So with 9 energy in reserve, the Cub could become a 6/6, and that would be large enough to block the Hazaret. However, if that last card in Kevin's hand is a burn spell, Nikolich would pay a huge price for this block.
It makes sense to go for it.
Yeah.
Hazaret can just really run away to the game.
Going to dump all the energy into a 6/6 Cub. What is Kevin's hold card?
You neither want to take 5 damage or chump block here, so I like the line from Nikolich.
Right.
It's pretty low risk, too, with just the 1 card left over.
5 damage on the Cub. Can Kevin finish it off? There's 1 card. And the amount of thinking he's doing, my guess is no. I think the Cub may live. And this is a big turning point. If Kevin can't remove the Cub, and he can't, he passes back. That's a big advantage for Nikolich.
Right. Now as things turn around, it shouldn't be very long before Kevin King is looking for chump blockers or just hanging back the Hazoret.
Yeah. Well, there's 9 power in play for Benjamin. And we see Chandra Torch of Defiance being winded up here in Ben's hand. Actually, make that Bristling Hydra. He'll cast that one instead. Goes up to 4 energy. A swing of Rogue Refiner puts Kevin down to 17. And you see even still some defensive posturing on Ben's side. He could have made a 10-point swing that turn.
Hey, he's just checking the Hazoret here. With King so light on resources, he can't really do anything to punish Nikolich for not attacking with the Cub.
King just said go.
So Nikolich very much in control of the pace of this game now. He can choose how aggressive he wants to be. He can choose how defensive he wants to be. He's just ahead on both sides there.
Another Rogue Refiner here for Nikolich. And he is pulling away. Attune with the Aether, up to 8 energy. And you see so many ways to use it. The Hydra, the Cub.
And he's setting up just a ton of blockers. Pretty soon he'll be able to cast Chandra Torch of Defiance and just run away with the game outside of combat. With 15 life, you don't have too much to worry about.
Kevin discarding another Hazoret. He shoots his opponent down to 13. Actually, Nikolich didn't even attack that turn.
Well, he doesn't want to attack with the Cub because it's still checking the Hazoret. Anything else just runs into the Hazoret and gets eaten by it.
Okay. So really he needs to just play defensive until he has just an overwhelming advantage?
Right. Yeah, the only fine attack was the Cub. Once you attack with the Cub, you can send a few more creatures in. Though with King at 17, doesn't make a ton of sense to get too aggressive just yet.
Well, Rampaging Ferocity on the plate for Kevin, but here's something that'll clear out the way. It's Confiscation Coup on Hazoret.
That was the one thing King had going for him in this game.
So the Hazoret now works for Benjamin, and now there's no good blockers. Benjamin's free to swing with as many of these creatures as he likes.
Right, everyone but the Hazoret does still have 2 cards in hand, but plenty of good attacks outside of that. He's going to keep playing it conservatively, though, just the Cub.
Long Tusk Cub swings, Soulscar Mage jumps in front of it.
At 8 energy in the reserve, so that Cub could be hitting for 10.
Another Hazoret from King. He's making a game of it, or doing his best to, but still 3 cards in hand from Nikolich.
Yeah, Nikolich still hasn't cast that Chandra.
Yeah.
I want to say I saw a Glorybringer in the holdings as well. That makes combat very easy. Just fly over.
And yeah, that's going to be the play. Here's the Dragon. Hey, Kevin King just maintaining composure on this board. Said, all right, you take 1, go to 12. He's got to know how unlikely he is to win from here. But
Nikolich pulling the Glorybringer from the sleeve, suggesting an exert here. It's going to be an Alpha Strike here. That's Glorybringer exerting, takes care of the Frostodon. King only has the Hazoret as a blocker. It gets in front of the Cub, but plenty more damage coming through. That's going to be it.
Yeah, Kevin's going to scoop up the cards. And so game 1 will go to Benjamin Nikolich. And you know, we saw some good aggression on King's side. The turn I was really looking for was when Kevin had his Hazoret and it was blocked by a 6/6 Long Tusk Cub. That felt like the turning point.
You wanted to see a follow-up there, and when he didn't have it, that Cub made it really easy for Nikolich to play defense.
Yeah, Kevin didn't really deal. He dealt almost no damage after that point. All right, so the players are going to sideboard for a second game, and we'll tell you all about that in just a minute after this break. All right, well, we'll go to break in just a second when we can. Ryan, I do want to talk about the sideboards for both players here. So on Kevin King's side, he's got 3 Aethersphere Harvester. He's got 2 Harsh Mentors. That would bring him up to 4. 2 Glorybringers, Chandra's Defeat, Pianalar, Chandra Torch of Defiance, and a Braid. in this kind of matchup, I think the more we start getting into trading removal spells with creatures, the more worried I am about Kevin's strategy. So what? But I assume he's still got a plan here. I mean, Teamer Energy is about half the field today.
The philosophy that I like, especially on the play, is being lower to the ground in this matchup. The extra Harsh Mentors, those are going to be great. They cover Warlord Virtuoso, which is one of the better cards for Nikolich. The extra copies of Abrade help you be a little more aggressive in the early game. That makes a lot of sense. Pia Nalar, I think, is also very good just because it's 2 bodies. You get a flyer. And I like Chandra Torch of Defiance. Specifically on the play, I like it a lot. It helps you keep up the aggression, just have a nice 1, 2, 3, 4 curve.
Okay. Now on Nikolich's side, he's got 4 Negate, 3 Vizier of Many Faces. He's just got 2 copies of Chandra's Defeat. Of course, those come in against Ramanap Red. And we see a bunch of other 1-ofs here. I'm assuming the Chandra's Defeats come in, but anything else you like here?
Basically all the removal spells, those Chandra Defeats, the Magma Spray, the Abrade, all that stuff plays in a big way. Not a ton else that I expect to see coming in here. Probably just those spells.
All right. Well, we'll see just how they sideboard. And now we will be back with game number 2 after a short break. Just bingo update. Huh? And welcome back here after our break here. So, yeah, bingo update, you know, all right.
Looking pretty good.
That's it. That was my update.
I still have a bingo.
Yeah, yep.
That has not changed.
It didn't go away.
Right.
You
nothing,
know,
nothing was revoked.
You know, I know we have a square Earthshaker Kenra Eternalized. You know, the games just don't go that way. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, not as much as it used to. The red player gets to turn 6, even if you eternalize it, they just have 2 blockers, you know?
It doesn't matter. All right, we're going to... Yeah, maybe he can... What I have to hope is that Kevin wins and then decides to just style and play eternalize one anyway, and then we're okay. All right, well, game number 2 going to be underway. This will put Kevin King on the play. For a deck like Ramanap Red, that is a big resource.
Yes. Yeah, certainly losing the die roll in game 1 is not where you wanted to be. Bomat Courier on the play, quite a bit better than on the draw.
Turn 1. Again, for Kevin King, it's going to be Sun-Scorched Desert.
Ooh, no
you want to
Bomat
start
Courier.
on those red manas.
You want to start on a 1-drop.
And here's a wonder from Ben Nikolich, Attune with the Aether. You know, Ryan, I've heard a lot of players here, and I know Team Energy is just far and away the most popular deck, really describing this as a 1-mana divination in Standard.
Yeah, someone did a mock-up where it's like search for a basic land and then choose 1, make 2/3 of a Thopter, put a +1/+1 counter on your Long Tusk Cub, etc. It does a lot.
Bomat Courier turn 2 from Kevin. It puts a card under it. He still has not produced a red mana yet.
Yeah, double Sun-Scorched Desert. Looks like Ramunap Runes is in hand. He just doesn't want to make red mana just yet. And taking some damage for it, not great.
Yeah, here's a mountain. Uncrop Crasher, the 1-of. Nikolich has a Harness Lightning at the ready. Can pick one of the 2. It's going to Harness Lightning down the Uncrop Crasher.
It's more damage now, and especially if he has another removal spell for the Bomat Courier, that makes a lot of sense. King still plenty of cards. Doesn't make sense to cash in the Bomat Courier just yet.
If that, I'm calling it right now, if that Bomat Courier gets hit by a Abrade, I'm just going to go ahead and check off Abrade destroys an artifact. I'm not going to ask which mode he chose.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right.
I'll allow it.
I guess it doesn't say Abrade destroys an artifact by picking the destroy an artifact mode. Abrade placing lethal damage on an artifact. I'm going to count it. Here's Earthshaker Kenra. Light Magma Spray. Oh, that's great. It's exiled. He exiles the Earthshaker Kenra.
That will not be eternalized.
That's really good. Okay, yeah, we're going to eternalize that in a few turns. Okay. 1 damage, bends to 16.
What's happening here that's relevant is that Nikolich is missing on his 3rd land drop, has these removal spells, and King's draw looks like it's a little bit mana heavy, not really doing too much. However, Nikolich just not able to punish him.
Another land from King. Yeah, we do see another Harness Lightning and another Magma Spray in Nikolich's hand. Oh, look, here's another Kenra, and here's going to be another Magma Spray for it. And it's just, you know, Kevin's getting up to 6 lands. It would have been a really good game for an Eternalized Earthshaker Kenra.
We're getting to the point where you probably have to go for the Bomat Courier, though.
All right, Harness Lightning hits the Courier. Kevin's going to use it. Discards Abrade Ramunap Ruins.
We'll be missing those ones.
I like how then Kevin does exile the last card. It's good. Never gets to see it. And here's Spire Bluff Canal from Ben. Not only is it his 3rd land, it enters the battlefield untapped and makes blue. All things he can use here, as Whirler Virtuoso is going to be the play.
That is nice, though. You do see Ramunap Ruins and a couple deserts there. 13 is not the healthiest life total in this matchup.
Yeah, Kevin will have a lot of activations, but here's a 5-mana card, and it is one of those sideboard glory bringers from Kevin King. It will attack, it will exert, and deal 4 to the Whirler Virtuoso. A huge swing out of the sideboard from Kevin.
You force the action on making some Thopters now. You also prevent something like a 3rd Thopter if Nikolich can hit that 9 energy threshold.
See, 2 Thopters made. Ben's going to cash out all of his energy. And one of the Thopters blocks the Glorybringer. He really does respect those Ramunap Ruins.
Yeah, going to 9 is even more uncomfortable, especially since Lightning Strike has entered the format. It's pretty easy to close out from 9.
Nikolich hoping to keep hitting land drops. Here's Rogue Refiner. Draws him into Servant of the Conduit. No land. He passes. And Shock takes care of the 3-2. We're back to King. Glorybringer. He's tired for this turn. He'll stay tapped.
Not the hardest working dragon in the business.
All right. Now, so we're going to trade the Thopter with the Kenra. And then Nikolich needs to not concede. No, he's supposed to block it.
You can't even block there.
He needs to block it. He took 2.
4/4.
He took it. No, but you can't Eternalize it if it's not in the graveyard.
Take 2 now or take 4 later.
Eat his mana. It's his whole turn. Nikolich is down to 11. Here's Servant of the Conduit. Passes, leaves up 1 ready. Believe he has the Magma Spray in hand. That's good. That's
a lot better than taking 4.
2 more damage. Nikolich, I believe, will drop to 9. We'll confirm on that Ramunap Ruins activation.
Now the Glorybringer is untapped, and King's in a very solid position here. Might even see him just get aggressive and exert on that Thopter token. Concern would be that you get... Even if he has Chandras, if he doesn't matter if you exert or not, if you get the exert in, you at least kill the Thopter.
Lightning Strike. Wondering where it was going. Looks like it's going at the Servant. Here's a swing. No exert from Kevin. Here's Mag. Yeah, okay. Another one off an exile. Goodbye, Kenra. All right. That square is just a dead one. It's not even a good square. It wouldn't even be part of any 2 in a rows. We don't need it. Benjamin decides to block, stays at 9, now has no more Thopters.
And whether you choose to exert or not, the Thopter takes up 1 turn of Glorybringer. I kind of would have liked to just push in for that extra 4 damage, especially with the Ramunap Ruins active, but it's fine either way.
Yeah, well, we're seeing, if we have end step Ramunap Ruins untapped another one, we're getting very close to being lethal. I guess it is 1 short.
Right, yeah, you can start doing it on this following turn here. He's certainly far from being in a bad spot. Still at 20, way ahead on the battlefield.
Single green up for Ben, which means he's free to swing, and it's going to be Hazoret Glorybringer. That's actually just lethal, and Kevin King takes the 2nd game.
I was going to say, he probably has to have a pretty good follow-up to point a burn spell at a creature right here, and a lethal one's pretty good. That'll fit the bill.
All right, so Kevin King evens things up. And we saw a stumble on Nikolich's side. Kevin's start wasn't actually that great. It was a Sunscorched Desert into a turn 2 Bomat Courier. No. A lot of times when Benjamin Nikolich's hand is that Harness Lightning plus Magma Spray, that'll very much contain a slow start.
Yeah, if you saw that Virtuoso on turn 3, we were probably looking at a very different game. So Kevin King was hitting pretty hard at the end there. You saw the Glorybringer, Hazoret. Those are great follow-ups in the mid to late game.
All right, so they're going to replay, shuffle up here for a 3rd game, and we'll be back with that in just a minute. We're going to be back here with the 3rd game of Ben Nikolich versus Kevin King. Both 8 and 2. This is table number 2 of the tournament, which really shows how well Gerard Fabiano is doing.
Yes. Yeah, a bit of a gap there.
And we are ready to go. Turn 1, Spire Canal. And Kevin does not produce a 1-drop.
Though he has finally let on Mountain instead of Sun-Scorched Desert.
Yeah. And he did have actually a 1-mana spell. It's Shock. Takes care of Nikolich's Long Tusk Cub.
That's actually kind of the ceiling for Shock in this matchup. It's a pretty big win for King dealing with the
a cub?
infinitely powered and toughness Long Tusk Cub.
Servant of the Conduit from Ben. Does he have a land? No, he does not. It gets hit by Lightning Strike. That's a big win for King. I mean, especially sometimes you don't even get to shock a Long Tusk Cub if Nikolich just starts on a tune.
Yes.
Then, and we see Rampaging Ferocidon, and I really like this play on an underdeveloped board. We see Rogue Refiner from Nikolich. He takes the damage.
And hitting that Ferocidon, that's a big win. He was doing all right in the attrition game, though eventually he has to get pressure up, and Ferocidon is a great form of pressure.
Yeah. See Bomat Courier, Sun-Scorched Desert. Ramanap Ruins in Kevin's hand.
Ferocidon doesn't just hit you for playing creatures. It also has Menace, so we can just attack into this Rogue Refiner.
And there's a swing. Nikolich down to 15. Sun-Scorched Desert. Nikolich goes to 14. Kevin chipping away. Here is Hazaret.
That's worth 1. He'll take point of damage.
Yeah, that's one the other way. So Kevin drops to 19. I think we're fine. That's not really the number we're counting right now.
I will pay that cost that I imposed upon myself.
And Ben Nikolich. Here is Whirler Virtuoso. Ben goes to 13.
And Ferocidon squares up very well against Virtuoso. Taking 1 to make a Thopter and block Hazaret's better than taking 5, but you at least get to keep the pressure up this way.
Now there's 3 cards in Kevin's hand, so we'll see how fast he can dump them, if whether or not Hazaret can attack this turn.
Land drop activation gets you there. That's a pretty easy threshold.
Actually, correction,
we'll
there's 4 cards.
4's harder. I think I see a Bomat Courier and a land in the holdings, though.
Yeah, I actually think he can go land, courier activation. I think he can get rid of all of them. We see Ramanap Ruins.
The question is, how much does he want to take damage to cast his creatures versus discarding them? I think it's fine to get both of these out there. 2
Bomat Couriers. Kevin taking damage for each. Kevin will go to 17. And then Hazaret's can attack. And Nikolich is going to make a Thopter and have it blocked. So he'll go to 12 because of that Ferocidon trigger. But I guess taking 1 is better than taking 5.
Most definitely. 12, though, you're getting to that weird threshold where it divides really easily with shocks and lightning strikes. A little bit more work to get there with shocks, but there's a little bit higher access to shock as Hazaret turns any card into increments of 2 damage.
Yeah, and she'll swing on in there. So now a Servant of the Conduit from Nikolich, and again he takes the damage from Ferocidon. He's down to 11. And we're looking at these add up. Right now 4 damage has happened just off those Ferocidon triggers, 3 more off a Ferocidon attack.
And here's an Hazaret activation. Discard that Scavenger Grounds. That doesn't play in this matchup.
Let's check off that square again. I gotta get on the board. Here, it's right here. There are 2 dots on that square.
And from here, Kevin doesn't actually have any blank draw steps. It's either a card he wants to cast or it's a card he can pitch to Hazaret. Nikolich at 9, pretty easy to clean up from here. At some point, he can just attack with the Bomat Couriers to convert them into a fresh card.
And here comes 1 Courier and the Hazaret. Magma Spray from Nikolich takes care of the Courier. That's fine. But Hazaret, she swings in. It's either 5 damage from the God or 1 damage from the Ferocidon.
You could also just throw like the Servant in front of it.
Yeah. Nikolich will choose the Thopter. He goes to 8.
Yeah, you're giving up something anyway. He's not going to be able to win this game without making some more creatures one way or the other. So he's going to be taking some hits from that Ferocidon.
It looks like here is a tune. And you see that Nikolich, wanting to get to 5, he has a pair of Glorybringers in hand.
And as far as dealing with Hazaret, he's basically looking at the 2 Confiscation Coup in his main deck.
Okay. Yeah, and because he doesn't play a card like Soulscar Mage, Chandra's Defeat doesn't really work here.
Right.
Otherwise, I guess he's looking at just using these Thopters to continually block.
Well, the Frostodon kind of makes that a null proposition.
Glorybringer from Nikolich, he goes to 7. This is still more damage. It's now the 6th point of damage off Rampaging Frostodon.
That one will deal with the Dino, though. You can exert and take care of that.
Okay.
That makes things a bit better. He's getting kind of shy on energy, but he still has enough for one more Thopter.
And I like this attack he's looking at. It's not just Glorybringer to kill Frostodon. He's looking at attacking with Rogue Refiner.
From 7, you have to close the game.
Yeah, recognizing that he's, he's being chipped out and that he can't stop it, so he needs to try to win fast. This is a good attack. There's a lot of risk to it, and he's really contemplating whether it's just Dragon or whether it's Dragon and Refiner.
Yeah, you kind of line it up. You ask, how can I win if I make this play? How can I win if I make the other play? If you attack with a Rogue Refiner, you're more liable to taking some damage on the ground. If you don't, the question is, can you actually win fast enough to close the game?
All right, so he went with the defensive play. Just the Dragon. It exerts, removes the Ferocodon. King down to 13.
Hazoret activation. Nikolich down to 5.
Okay, so now got to block the Hazoret, and makes sense.
Yeah, that's the line we've been on for a few turns, so we'll keep that up.
Yeah, Nikolich has been rewarded for all those early blocks of chump blocking it.
Yeah.
You see another Glorybringer in Ben's hand. He could still get this.
Yeah, the extra Glorybringer, that actually makes the no attack with the Rogue Refiner make a bit more sense. He has a significant amount of pressure there.
So it's looking like Nikolich can win in 2 swings. Next turn, play Glorybringer, attack, possibly even can exert, but the following turn should be a lethal attack. So King has about 2 swings to win here.
So the first one would bring King to 9. You might even see a chump block with the Rogue Refiner, so that in the following turn, Glorybringer, Thopter, made off the Rogue Refiner would be lethal.
And look at this. We saw King discard a card to Hazoret, attack with Bomat Courier, and then sack it to get a card. He was not able to attack with the Hazoret.
Yeah, he sees that he won't be able to get in damage, so he may as well hang back that blocker.
I suppose his hope is that he draws a burn spell or
if you see an extra card, you're more likely to find Lightning Strike.
Lightning Strike. And because of the Hazoret activation, he gets another turn. It's not just Lightning Strike. Shock works.
Yeah.
Sunscorched Desert works.
That would be pretty nice.
I always like the exact burn spell.
Oh, yeah. Especially off of a land.
Oh, yeah. It's like horrible land. You're like, yeah, play this desert, sack it to Ramanap Ruins.
Luckily, I had this card that sometimes makes my draft decks.
Until the Desert Matters cards came out in the second half of Amonkhet, it never played Sunscorched Desert.
I believe it.
We go back to Nikolich. The Dragon unexerts, but still tapped for this turn. He has an option of Rogue Refiner, Bristling Hydra, or Glorybringer. He's going to play Rogue Refiner, and I actually really like that play. Next turn, the second Glorybringer should be lethal anyway.
Yeah, now that he has kind of freed up to get some chip shots in on the ground.
Yeah, he's going to swing. Looks like 2 or all 3 of his ground creatures. He does have another Thopter waiting there, thanks to the energy from Rogue Refiner.
Oh, yeah.
See that 3 up top with the Jacob Baugh token. All Ben needs to do is present enough pressure here to make sure that next turn's attack is lethal.
Right, and it has to be next turn. You can see the writing on the wall. If you take 2 turns, King's
Hazoret,
gonna get you first. Yep, you got to close this window. There's still a pretty significant chance that King is able to win on just the following turn.
But I don't know if Nikolich can stop that.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do anything about that.
And there's not too many cards. There's the card that Kevin drew off the Bomat Courier, and the card he's going to draw this next turn.
Yep.
And if one of them is a burn spell, well, Nikolich is in trouble.
Yeah, we've already been through a Shock and a Lightning Strike.
King down to 12 on the swing. So now he's got the 2 cards. Does one of them seal the game?
Yeah, if he had a 6th land on the battlefield, obviously he hasn't drawn enough cards for that to be the case. But if he had that, he could just double Hazoret, but that's not the world we're living in.
Yeah, and I don't think we're there. You can see on Kevin's face, he was hoping for a burn spell, and right now he's counting out different creatures.
Yeah, King's pace of play is usually very fast.
There is a Lightning Strike. Is that a... No, that can't be. No, it's a Hazoret
Yeah,
and a
Hazoret
Ramanap Ruins. That doesn't work.
No.
So now, since Kevin can't win, the question is going to be, can he not lose? Hazaret plays the land and extends the hand. He says he knows he's short. He gets Nikolich down to 1, but 1 is not 0, and it looks to be Benjamin Nikolich winning the game here in a really tight game 3.
Yeah, that's really well navigated. He did everything he could to not take damage, aggressively put creatures in front of the Hazaret, and stabilized with the amount of life where one more hit that would have closed the game there. Yeah, so you really have to thread the needle in this matchup, and you see Nikolich navigating extremely well. Going up to 9-2, possibly doing as well as second place in this tournament. Of course, there's no catching Gerard Fabiano just yet.
No, and I mean, Kevin King has already lost to Gerard Fabiano. So while 2 losses in a row for King here is pretty regrettable, he's got to be still happy. Gerard's gonna help his breakers. And on top of this, Kevin now 8-3. He is 4. I was talking to him earlier. He's 4-3 in standard actually. So I think he'd love to finish 5-3 in standard if he can win the last round, and then he'll be happy to go back to his modern deck. He hasn't lost there yet.
And that doesn't surprise me too much. The skills that are relevant in Legacy tend to translate much better into modern than they do into standard.
Yeah, it's like the newer the format gets, the farther away you are from your comfort zone.
Right, and you see he's playing Ramming Up Red here, whereas I'd be pretty surprised to see him playing Teamer Energy, where
right.
Teamer Energy is just a lot of high-powered cards that you draw 1 every turn and you get there, whereas in Legacy and Modern, you play a bunch of 1-mana things.
Yeah, and you talk about the play style of Legacy. Okay, so thinking about Modern, I'm not at all surprised here. Kevin's Modern deck is Death Shadow.
Yeah, that is the most similar to Legacy
right.
deck that there is in Modern.
Exactly.
Some people even just play Death Shadow in Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, you can do both that. So Kevin drops to 8-3. Ben Nikolich 9-2. And we're seeing Teamer Energy still being very strong. That is the standard deck of Gerard Fabiano as well.